Vajashik, welcome. Welcome to InDigital Insights. I'm your host, Monique Manatch Indigenous, Kitikanik Anishinaabe and Dojiba. I'm from the Algonquins of Barrier Lake. And today we get to speak with Wes Day. And Wes is a wonderful videographer. I say that because he was one of our first students. And I've always been such like a proud mom with Wes. He's just done so wonderfully well. He's a multimedia artist. He's giving back. He's a youth mentor. He's a cultural facilitator. He's from Serpent River First Nation, and he's the creator of Fresh Shift Productions. How you doing, Wes? It's good to see you.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, as you're going through all these details, I'm like, yeah. We've known each other for I think 21 years now.
It has been.
21 years.
I kept saying, "Oh, he's a great kid," and then I saw you, and it's like, "You're a grown up. When did you get?
Yeah.
When did that happen?"
Yeah. No, we met in 2006, 2007,
Yeah.
and Monique was running ICMI in Six Nations out of the cable station, and you guys let me like handle the camera and edit on a iMac. And I had been shooting before, but I never got a chance to actually sit and edit it. I was like, I got all this footage, but back then you couldn't edit without a whole bunch of stuff. But we actually got to edit, and then I never really looked back since. It's always been fun.
And then you went on from there. You went to POSEC, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to Canada College. I did 2 years for TV production. Yeah, TV broadcasting and video production. And then I tried a third year at Fanshawe, but I dropped out at that point. I was like, I'm already doing all this stuff. And I started working with the Oneida Language and Cultural Center. And right from school, I was making documentaries and trying to figure it all out by myself. Yeah, it was really exciting. Like, I really enjoyed working on the res. A lot of my peers went to work in big production houses in Toronto, but I was just like, boom, like right out of school. We're in this little cultural center. They gave me some like Canon GH5s, or not GH5s. I'm getting mixed up. But yeah, they gave me some Canons, and we were shooting just little tape. And the first film I cut was Memoirs of an Oneida Warrior or Elder. I forget what it was. It was about Manson, Ireland. He was a bridge builder. So I went out and I shot all the footage, and I had to assemble it on I think they're Lenovo machines.
Yeah.
And I had to cut it on that. And then I put it all together and burn the DVD. And then they paid me. They were like, here's some money for a summer. And I was like, wow. So yeah, that was the first little film I did. And then kept working with them and worked with quite a few people over the years.
How have you found when we started, there's those little digital, I think we started with PD-170s, those
Yeah.
little digital tapes.
Yeah.
I think being that we were offering this digital video production, like, it was such a big thing because it was digital. But now things have changed so much. Like over the years, you've seen the progression of all that technology.
Yeah. I saw just the process of it change. Like, we'd have to get ready. We'd have these mini DV tapes. It would be cold. You'd have to heat them up or treat them a certain way. You'd only shoot so much, and you'd shoot in kind of sequence, and then you'd bring it back and you'd chop it. But we were also taking those DV tapes and plugging them in through the Thunderbolt to the Mac. So we're still I was editing on an iMovie for quite a few years, and then I moved to Final Cut Express, and then right into Final Cut Pro. But yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. And what I think changed the most is I always told people like I specialized in res filmmaking, because I would work with other professionals and they'd be like, how do you do this? Like, the person's not showing up, and where's your boom pole? Where's this? I'm like, well, we have duct tape and a broomstick, and we can make a tripod out of a chair. I was used to like working with like very minimal stuff. But that also changed the way the creative output was. Like, I had full reign at the center within the guidelines of what the elders wanted to do and talk about. But it was just like, yeah, let's experiment with this, and let's try to do a sequence. Let's go shoot something outside in the backyard of a fire, and mix that in. And it was a really good time, like during that time for me. But yeah, I think it's changed a lot. From now, you can shoot it on an iPhone directly to a hard drive, and everything's filmed, and everybody's watching something, everybody's posting something. Like when we started, when I got out of school, I was cold calling like businesses on the yellow pages and saying, "Hey, can I shoot a video for your business?" And they're like, "What? Why?" I'm like, "Because you want to advertise on YouTube." And they're like, "What's YouTube?" Nobody knew that. And I remember calling so many places and getting so many no's, right? But I was very fortunate to always be working on the res and working with people who could get funding and then who could tell our stories, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that means so much too because I found over the last 20 years there's been this real resurgence of our stories, of our storytelling. We've been able to pass on the knowledge of the elders to the next generations because we've had these tools. Because it used to be once they're gone, they were gone. And now we can, in that sense, we can keep their spirit alive. We can teach the kids.
I remember our first ever, like, when we went and met William Commando, we took a trip and you're like, Wes, we're going to film an interview with them. And you were like telling me that back then, this is important work. Like, this is going to help like people in the future. And I never really forgot that. Like, I filmed a lot of crazy stuff over these years. Like, I filmed like the hunters doing the hunting, and I filmed when the I don't know more was the woman was banging on the door, like, I was right there. I was filming like just so much like epic historical things, or even these small little things like lacrosse stick makers. And but I agree with you, like that was always my mindset, was like, I want to film with these people because it's going to be gone or nobody will know. And I think what we do, we've always, as filmers, we have a fascination with people too. Like we have a fascination with the way they talk. We have a fascination with the storytelling. Like that comes from like our families, right? And there would be someone who would tell a story, and I remember all these details. And I might not even remember the full story, but I remember how they told it. And then over the years, it becomes, like I said, it becomes this weird obsession with people and conversations, right? But yeah, filmed so much culture over the years. I filmed so many amazing things. Filmed a lot of crazy hip hop stuff, rappers. Oh man, film politicians, different people. But yeah, it is a fascination with people, I think, that drives it.
How do you find your approach now that the tools are different? Not only are we looking at filming on an iPhone or that kind of thing, but there's also other tools out there that we're using now that we weren't using before. How has that changed your approach to what you create?
It's funny, like more recently, I've become anti. Like, I'll go and see a sunset and I won't pull out the camera at all. Or I'll be with family and I won't film all of that. And people are like, why don't you bring your camera and why don't you come see that? I'm like, no, dude, I do it all the time. Like, it's like funny to me now. Like, is the mind just the camera? Is the memory the hard drive? And it is hard drive. More recently, I've been working with a group talking about AI and looking at how much storage the human brain has and how much storage Google is currently operating, and all these crazy other strange technological nuances. But the approach, I think, it changes. I went through periods where I didn't like the work, where I quit doing films altogether. I was trying to get into the trades, and it kept calling me back. Like, it was like, yeah, you're meant to actually record people, like, and talk to people. And yes, the technology is going to change. Yes, it's hyper fixated on like YouTube shorts and Instagram reels and very quick content that gets you to feel something. But the approach to the story, that's something that can't be taught. Like, we're going to go to Ottawa, we're going to go film people in Ottawa. Well, how do you do that? Do you go right in and film with a gimbal and get them to sit down in front of a window and interview them and nod excessively while they give you like content? Or do you wait around Ottawa? You hang out at a coffee shop, you breeze, you chill. And that's where I'm at now, where I'm like, okay, yeah, we've done all these interviews and we've done like this stuff with elders and we've talked to people, but what are we really saying here? Like, how do I approach this a little different? How does, how am I going to get what they need or I need them to say on camera? And that to me is interesting because everybody says the same thing, land back or reconciliation or the next 7 generations. Everyone says the same things in all these videos, but who says it the best? Who says it with the most interesting, like who's providing something different? And we're always looking for when we're filming. We're looking for that magical like few phrases. And once again, it goes back to listening to people and talking and being obsessed with communication and language. And then once you get that on camera, that's kind of what makes the whole thing worth it. Because you're like, you drove all the way there, you got the interview, set up the lights, everything. But when that person said that one phrase, it really changed your perspective. And then you were like actually nodding and listening and you got it on camera. And then there was something interesting about it when you got it on camera because you captured a piece of their truth, but that what they said there, you'll never ever understand fully what that was. We can only see it through this two-dimensional lens, whatever, but we'll never fully understand, just like with the elders or with these people. And once you get it, you feel something about it, and then you're editing that footage. You're like, man, this is really good. And then you start to treat it with a lot of respect, and you're really trying to fine tune what that person was talking about. But it's so odd. It's like you hear about FBI profilers who get overexposed to micro expressions, and they do that to look at people and find like people who are lying or telling the truth. We've been overexposed to micro expressions like human expression. I believe I've seen so much of it, like so many interviews. And there might be just something about the way they look or something. And I'll say, that one's good. That piece is good. That's good. That's good. I don't know why it's good, but just put it together right now. I don't know why. It makes sense. So, yeah, that's a little bit about the editing, right?
Well, it's good that you trust your gut, that
Yeah.
you can sense or feel what
Yeah.
it is they're trying to say. A lot of what we see online, a lot of what we see in social media, a lot of that is just cookie cutter or generated, and it impacts how we see ourselves and see the world.
Yeah. Well, especially with AI now being able to write scripts and chop documentaries and produce content, that I think it's setting up people to absorb recycled truth in a fashion that's like generating the most clicks or views or getting you to stop scrolling for like 5 seconds and then it gets sent out and they document and then they psychologically profile the viewers. So we're like fed dopamine. Like I doom scroll too, man. I'll go down rabbit holes. I'm like, why am I watching? And I know, and I make this crap. So it's interesting the science behind it. But when you're gonna see young people like go completely opposite. I feel you're gonna see young people that won't be carrying cell phones at all. That will be having experiences like we did pre-internet and they won't film any of it. It'll just be maybe they'll have an appreciation for the analog era. Like it's going to be strange. But then you'll see like people that are screen maxing. They call it screen maxing, where they have a phone, they have a tablet, they have this, and they purposely do it all day. They're like trying to increase the input into the brain, the human brain. But we're going to get really further down the rabbit hole, I feel, as time progresses with consciousness and content and filming and how much that is stored into our mind, just like a computer. But we're going to see it. We're going to see it in our lifetimes, I feel.
You got to
But
wonder if people
my
follow.
job may be obsolete at that point. They might not need somebody like me. And maybe I'll be a niche. I'll be like record players. I'll be like
Albums.
Yeah, the hipster draft beer. I'll be like this vintage niche thing. Wow, you filmed on a camera? Why don't you use your mind? Like, why aren't you editing right now with your brain inside of the metaverse? Well, we used to edit with our fingers. Well, now we're editing very fast, and I don't know. It's interesting to see. But all that being said, you have to go back to our culture and our people and the natural law that surrounds everything that we're doing. That's why I feel so blessed to be like born into this existence as at the cusp of filmmaking and storytelling and being indigenous and embodying this conscious format. Like I'm so grateful that I'm in it now because not only do we get to see it all, but we get to have all that other information and knowledge and connection to the earth, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And when I first started, we actually did. It was on. I was in radio, and it was on reel to reel tape, and you physically had to cut the tape and then cut it to where and then take the tape out and then tape it back together again. So it was a razor and a grease pencil, and now it's a couple of clicks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like in regards to the work I've done, I really enjoyed working with Oneida. I feel like those years were really fundamental to what I do now, working with the elders, working with the language, and in a lot of ways it made me more of a versatile filmer because we didn't have the tools. We invented a lot of the tools and we made things work. And I remember working with Mary Elijah and she passed away, but she was my old boss and she was so great. She's like, we have 2 weeks. We're going to the Oneidas move to Canada. And it was a 3 week turnaround. We're going to teach everybody how to do the language. We're going to do acting. We're going to do historical piece. It's going to be like, and I was like, you're crazy. Well, no, we got the money and let's just go. And we did it. We shot this film in 3 weeks. And I think I edited it in a month and then it was done. And the budget was small, but who does that? That old way, like that's what I like to think about, that old way of thinking. And Mary wasn't she didn't go to film school, but she was very smart at finding the funds and she was smart at working with the community and she would do what a producer does, I guess. We turned around that film and nowadays you look at the amount of money people are spending on films and oh, it's going to take this time and we need to get this actor and we need to do this and this. And I think it's a double-edged sword there, or there's too much money now. There's too much this, there's too much that. Let's get back to reality. Like we can go film it. Let's go film it. And now at this stage, I have all the toys that I need to actually go and film like a Netflix worthy production, but I don't. I just sit around and doom scroll and work on other people's stuff. It's the crazy part about it, right? Like you think about who you were like when I was 18, like, oh man, I can't wait to get out there and do this. And now I'm actually out there and I've done it. But where does the story come from? Where's the magic come from? So more recently, I've been taking quite a bit of a break to reevaluate that stuff, right? Because we get burnt out in this business too. It's a lot of people. I think it's a lot of emotional stuff. And when you go to a set and the whole thing could be falling apart and they're looking at you and you're like, okay, well, let's get this interview here. Like just chill here. Like you're the person who kind of keeps it together when you're in the midst of it.
Well, now you're working a lot with youth too. Has that always been a consistent thread, or is it more now than it used to be?
Yeah. Yeah. The youth, like I always knew that they had the energy and the dream and the desire to create new stuff. And my goal was always, whenever I work with them within filming or hip hop, because I used to rap a lot, I would say, you know what, like my goal is that you make stuff that's better than I've made. Like that was always my goal. I was not like trying to hold them back and do all like limit them and limit their access to people. And I was never jealous. I was just like, yo, like just make something better than I made. And that was my goal. And yeah, I've done quite a few like youth workshops over the years. More recently, we did a film called Taken from the Dish with Six Nations. And that was a 3 year project. Like, I was only supposed to be there for like 2 weeks. Come in, do a little song and dance. Here's a camera. Here's how you film, and see you later. But there was something in it like that was so refreshing to me at that time, because that's after I stopped filmmaking for a while. And I seen so much in them. I was like, well, here's a camera, but here's how you shoot. Like, I'm not touching the camera. You guys shoot it, and I'm going to watch. I'm going to train you. And yeah, it took us a year to film it, to write the script, and then 3 years or 2 years of editing. I refused to even edit. I would just bring the computer to the community center there, and I would sit there and I'd be like, okay, well, it's cutting the film. Like, the film is right inside this box. We want it to go to the screen, but to get from the screen to the box, you have to sit at the computer and edit. And we had quite a few youth like actually helping with the edit, but one youth, he came right through, and he was the last one that was there every night. And I said, you're going to actually go on to do this. Like, you're going to become a filmmaker. And I knew it, because it takes a lot of psychotic dedication to sit for hours and watch people. Like, that's the part we don't talk about too much, is the editing, right? And I said, if you can handle this, then you'll be able to handle this business and this world. Because yeah, and he did. He did so well. Like, I ended up selling him all my old gear, and I sat with him just to finish up the edits. We still have a few things to do, but I'm really hoping we're getting into imaginative with the film. We were really lucky. We had a lot of community support. But once again, like, who does that? I should have walked away. Like, I was like, and people around me that work in the business are like, "You're still working on that film?" I'm like, It's this relentless like desire to finish what you started, right? That's another part of this business too. There's stuff on this computer that I shot when we were hanging out. Like, it's still there. It's years and years ago. I still have it. I might edit it sometime. I don't know. That's the crazy part, right? We have so much footage. We have so much stuff, right?
That's what I always found, that there was so much that was shot, and either A, getting it to the next level, or B, you use some of it, but you don't use all of it. So a lot of it just is there, but yeah, what do you do with it?
Yeah. Well, it's always nice to have, and certain things I'm glad I shot, because some of those elders aren't around anymore. There's things that I've shot that are controversial, that in our culture would be people wouldn't want you to film, but I was asked to film, and I didn't. And that was like where it became a spiritual thing for me. I mean, it always has been a spiritual endeavor, like filming. There's times when you're filming and you think this is great, and then you get back to the editing lab and it's all gone. The footage is gone. And then you talk to the elders, and they're like, yeah, the spirits they took that footage out of there. And you're like, okay. Like, you just, and then you refilm and then you watch. But it's so crazy because I've seen so much stuff. Like, I've filmed with so many different elders and so many different things. And it's so crazy to be on that journey, because at the same time, it feels like we never get a chance to stop. We find people when they're at like the pinnacle of their joy and their truth, and they're doing something, and we're filming them making a canoe, or we're filming them doing language, or we're filming them doing rap, or we're filming them at their heights, and then we're mixing it, and then we move on to the next thing. So I had to really take time, like I said, to actually do the stuff I wanted to do. But yeah, it is a spiritual journey. It's, you are a storyteller. You are still continuing on the traditions of the people before us. If this was like 1,000 years ago, I would be like an orator, like telling about all the tales of the hunts and all the people before. And I wouldn't have a video camera. I'd just have my voice and maybe some hand gestures or a talking stick or something. But we still continue that, like it's in our blood. And it's almost like a hunt, like you're chasing the story, you're chasing the image, you're listening. Like, I was in Texas last week, or sorry, 2 weeks ago, and I'm down in these swamps, and they're telling me the tales of the Caddo Indians out there. And old man Caddo used to do this and that. I'm like, man, let's go find them. You still have this thrill to see what others don't want to see, or maybe don't want to experience. That's the other part of this job, is the adventure. Like, we love the adventure, and we love If somebody says don't go over there, we're like, oh, let's go over there with some cameras. I don't know. That's what we do. We voyage out. We leave the village and then we find the story and we come back and we tell people about what happened out there. And then we got footage to show them. That's in our blood too as filmers. But it's a little riff about the adventure filming.
So you were saying about the stuff that you want to do. What is some of the stuff that you want to do?
Oh man, I went through a gamut of emotions about it. At first, I was angry, like I want to make chaos. I want to make like insanity, and I want to reflect it in the work. And then I tried it. Like I had a skeleton. I was filming this crazy stuff with the skeleton. I was really into like hyper editing. So there's like these forms of, I don't know how to explain it. It's screen maxing stuff that's on Instagram. It's just so blurred out, so just pixelated colors that just melt. It's just so visceral. And then I'm like, yeah, like that's cool. And then I went to Banff for 4 weeks. We were on a story sharing residency, and they're like, and I'm working on the script called Natives versus Aliens, and it's basically about these kind of gangster guys who uncover this alien plot, and there's like it's about like politics and identity. But I hate these identity pieces. Like I hate, oh, I'm gonna make a documentary about me coming home and rediscovering myself. Oh no, dude, I can't do it. I think we talked about this last time. I can't do that. I can't. I got to make something just out there and really outlandish and hilarious. More recently, I've been taking this time to say yes to the things I really want to do. Go to Texas. I just went with my buddy. We were out there visiting some of his friends. I just randomly went to Texas, and I'm trying with Natives versus Aliens. I'm filming it like trailer park style, where I have my friends, they're not professional actors. We have a rough script. They don't even know how to memorize the lines yet. I don't care. I'm filming very fast on a monopod and I have them on mics and I'm just getting these funny, hilarious sort of interactions. I don't need lighting. I don't need all of that stuff. That doesn't matter. It takes way too much time. We're able to film in 2 hours, get a bunch of crazy, interesting stuff, just like I used to when I started. And yeah, I think that's where I'm starting again because yeah, I got so burnt out from the political stuff. I got so burnt out from the corporate stuff. Mind you, that's what you're going to have to do if you want to be in this business. You have to, everyone does a car commercial, everybody does whatever, all the greats do it. You're going to do corporate stuff, but make sure that you're feeding that part of you that you want to make filming fun or film the things that are interesting. But yeah, more recently, I've been working on Natives versus Aliens. I started some scripts out in Banff, and then it felt like too much work there too. I told them that. They're like, we're in a talking circle, and they're like, what's the project? I'm like, I can't. It feels like work again. Like I'm not. I want to go check out the mountains. I want to go swim in the river. I want to do all the stuff I film people doing. Does that make sense? And I did. Like I had fun, and I made a little music video in Banff. That's all I did. As I filmed everybody on iPhone having fun and writing their scripts, and then I cut together a music video. I got into some photography, but it's learning that about yourself. That's what I'm learning right now about myself as a filmer is two things. What I'm learning is that I'm only scratching the surface of what this medium is, right? That was a really great revelation that happened. Because I was talking to my cousin, and I'm only just starting this. I thought so hard about it and tried so hard to be in the scene. And you go to Toronto and you're laughing and you're like sitting there with all the other producers and hearing all this stuff. You try that for a little while, and then you go to the res and there's nothing going on there. And then you try all these things, but I realized I'm only scratching the surface of this medium. And I don't know what that statement means, but it means like I'm scratching the surface of my practice of what I want to film and what I want to say. And that was such a great revelation. That was so great to feel that. I felt genuinely excited. And then the second thing is that There is no time here. There's no pressure here. It's gonna come to me how it's supposed to be. It's all gonna come to me, and I don't have to make it. I don't have to do anything to make it all happen. I don't have to drive 2 hours to Toronto to get a shot. I will when the time comes. I will do it completely, but I will do it in a way that I'm genuinely excited about it, if that makes sense. Because it's like this battle for me between 6 projects at once and just like getting burnt out and trying to make the money and then finally getting to your home and taking some pictures and feeling good about it. I'm tired of feeling that way too. But anyways, so yeah, that's the two things. I'm only scratching the surface of this medium, and it is all going to come to me how it's supposed to come to me.
I think you're young to have been able to figure that out. A lot of people never do. A lot of people don't. But your journey has been, I'm envious of all the teachings you've been able to have and all the elders you've been able to work with and all the talents of your friends and of the youth that you've been able to help grow. That's who I think I've always found my joy, getting this space. We need a space to be able to do all of this. And while I might not necessarily do editing, it's important to me that the projects are created and that they're done and that there's a space for somebody to learn those skills and to have those voices. We need more voice. We
Yeah.
need a stronger voice. And I think it's through your own project that voice happens.
Yeah. Recently, I got sad about that old way and the old way of the elders, right? Because we're now coming into these places where we have to, like, I'm 39 this year, and I have to tell them some truth here about what I think. Kind of like, yeah, go do what you want, man. Like, yeah, the film looks great. Okay. But it's that way of instructing people or educating people or bringing people through their own truth. And I believe that art and the work that we do is very self revealing stuff. That's how it works. That's how it's great. You're bringing you're uncovering truths and you're experiencing it. And the young people, they're coming from places now where they don't necessarily understand a lot of the old school. Their attention spans are like zero. Where I came from, we used to visit people and we would visit them until they felt better about themselves. You know, that's what we would do. It was like a medicine, and just would show up. Hey, man, I'd talk to people on the phone. They're blown away. Like, why are you calling me? I'm like, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. Is that, I don't know, am I lost in that? Like, everybody's too busy. Everybody's too hardwired. Everybody's too invested in surveillance culture and friggin' big data. Like, they got to watch everything that they say, and that's how some people live. I'm not in that algorithm. I'm very thankful I'm not on Facebook. I haven't been programmed to that extent, but there is a nuance or there is a way of being that those elders had, and they survived friggin' craziness, man. Like, for them to actually sit on camera and talk about it and trust us or filmers to actually talk about it, like, the stories I've heard, it just changes you after a while. So yeah, it's shifting, and the young people, they have to find their way in that, and they are gonna find it. And I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna have to tell them certain things that they might not want to hear, but I'm gonna tell them because I experienced it and I learned from it. I learned about it, and I think that's because that all becomes all of us. We all go through that where we instruct them. But how do you instruct an artist, man? How do you instruct an artist? And that's the fun part about all this. But that's what I love the most about what we do. We're all like a little bit out there. You have to be to do this. It would be like an ironworker trying to tell a younger ironworker how to walk the beam. Like, that's a whole language. That's a whole world to get to that level where you're going to be that next person. Just like we spent hours and days like in the esoteric and the strange and the weird and absorbing media. So how do you bestow that onto that next generation? And that's our jobs, right? Or at least that's my thing.
And plus, there wasn't as much information readily available like there is now. Before, when I was growing, you never saw Indigenous people on TV or on the radio, or like you didn't, there was nothing there. Once in a while, you'd see something from NFB, or you'd see something that was never very good quality and was full of misinformation. But now, the ones growing up now, there's, I think, they're better informed, younger,
They're
because there's more access.
Yeah, they're better informed, but then they're also absorbing so much about trauma.
Yeah.
I would almost think that it's a bad thing too, because they hear that all growing up, like truth and reconciliation, trauma, residential schools. They're taught that in schools. Not to say that's a bad thing to learn about that stuff, but what is the identity within all of that? And that's why I think they need to have ceremonies and have a spiritual life, because I didn't really talk too much about the spiritual side of my life. Like, I incorporate filming into that and art into that, but I also spent a lot of time like doing sweats and helping out elders and stuff like that. And that, I think, like, it sets you up for the future. Like, you look at all the blessings or the things that you have now, it's because you put a lot of work in then. And what is that for the next generation? Is that all going to be on Instagram? Like, hey, check it out. I'm going into a sweat, and check it out. I'm healing. I'm sober now. I'm on my sobriety journey. And they're showing all this media about themselves getting better. And do you need to film all that? Do you need to share that? Does that give you a dopamine hit too, like a drug? Or is that all helping? I don't know. I'm not those people, but I don't post a lot of that stuff. I don't talk about a lot of that stuff until people ask me about it, because I think there's something sacred in it. Like, I won't film like myself hunting, or I won't film like myself going to ceremonies. I won't do that. I'm not drawn to do that. Not to say that that might change. I don't know yet. But there's certain things I won't film and I don't ever want to film. You know, you ever have that feeling when you're doing the interview and you just, let's turn the camera off for a second. Let's just talk.
Absolutely, absolutely. We had a conference here a couple, well, about 5 or 6 years ago now, and that was one of the main things that came out of it. There are some things that either shouldn't be filmed and definitely shouldn't be on the internet.
Yeah.
It's just sacred things, personal things, like, there's just, and I think it's up to the individual to really determine for themselves where that boundary lies. Some people, you're right, they feel like putting it on the Instagram will help them heal more because then they're accountable, or now, and other people, I don't post. I don't post it. I'm a creeper. I like people to creep around and check out other people, but I don't post anything.
Well, it's egotistical, right? And there's a fine line between seeking validation and healing and putting it all out there, and then also like getting followers and getting people likes, and that's a whole that's a whole thing. I'm speaking about the future of AI.
Mhm.
I think, like, right now we're at like a bit of a race between its hard drive and our hard drives, our brains and their brains. And that's, I think that's like the main technologist kind of theory going on. But I think that our AI is our dreams. Our natural intelligence came from the dream world, came from that other place. And people are afraid of a lot of different things about information. And but at the end of the day, we're spiritual beings. We're the ones experiencing consciousness currently. And there's very amazing, powerful, beautiful things in that. There's very amazing, powerful, beautiful things in having a conscious experience. And I think that will become more apparent to people as time progresses. There'll be a value in having your own conscious space away from an algorithm.
That's the thing. We did a project on algorithms not too long ago, and we talked about how they're detrimental. Algorithms are based on annotations, and annotations are definitions. And if you look at the way the mainstream has defined Indigenous people, if those algorithms are based on these definitions, then they're not going to benefit Indigenous people because there's a bias. If you take the word settler means something completely different to the mainstream society than it means to Indigenous people. And there are millions of words like that.
It all goes back to what they call large language based models, and that's what AI, like I believe, operates off of, is these language based models, and it's what they call impressions, or the ability to take all of these words and create links through them. And what was it? Grok, Elon Musk's latest one, had the most impressions. It had 192 billion impressions or something crazy, which was beating ChatGPT. But Elon Musk talked about, he was on the Lex Friedman podcast for 8 hours. They interviewed not just Elon, but the whole team who did the Neuralink, where they plugged the brain into, or they plugged the computer into this young man's mind. And they said that it came down to bandwidth, that it was limited. Oh, I got to go low. It was limited by the amount of vocabulary that a human being could speak. So if you had a higher vocabulary, you had a better bandwidth and way to relate information. And my question was, where does an Indigenous language fit into that? Because if English language is only limited within its own vocabulary, then what would Indigenous language do within a language-based model, which is ChatGPT or any of these AIs?
That's amazing because when you think that it's a completely different structure for Indigenous languages, whereas English is noun based, Indigenous languages are generally verb based. And so you have a root word and then you have affixes which attach to that root word, which change the meaning. One word can actually be an entire sentence,
Yeah, and
and the
that
concepts are so interchangeable.
yeah, and would that be faster than English language? The coding all is like predominantly European, anyways. For AI, it goes back to European language. I don't know if it's the same with Mandarin or anything else, but yeah, we're gonna see the future. Like the future is gonna be. Here's what it'll be. It'll be an elder sitting in a nursing home. They're gonna be having a conversation, right? They might be having a conversation in Ginyikihaga, and that thing is going to be talking to them back in the language. And then it'll ask the question, what's the difference between a language speaker and an elder that knew somebody and this AI? Because it's still giving that person the ability to communicate in that language. And you could say, well, that, or Ojibwe or any other language, but you could say, like, that lost that person, it lost the spirit behind the language, but it's still able to communicate, and it's still able to do something that a lot of our people are losing touch with. So maybe that AI will help learn as it's talking to these elders. It'll start learning all the language, and it'll say, I can talk to you like they have if you want. Here, it'll switch over. Do you want to hear this, how this person talks? Boom, it'll switch over. Do you want to hear some of the stories this person had said? Boom, it switches over. And it can do that way faster than we can with cameras and editing, right? It can just be in a room just sitting and talking to them, just conversation like we are. But in doing so, it's going to rapidly like absorb a lot of language and do it quickly. And it might be a tool, right? But then you got big data and the mining companies and the people who want all the water and diamonds and craziness. They're going to take that, and then you're going to hear it like over an intercom while people are fighting in the front lines. It'll be talking like an elder to them, like, and that's like the sick part about a lot of this, because it all relates back to extractionist culture. That's how these machines operate. More recently, on that residency, there was a artist there. I'm not going to take credit for this, but she said she was talking to ChatGPT, and she said, "How much water do you use for this conversation?" It said, "I use approximately 600 milliliters of water for an hour long, or a typical chat session." It kind of goes back to water, right? It's still an extractionist culture. AI is great. Yes, it's the future, but it's still requiring tons of water. Like, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of homes of water usage it takes per day. And that's all got to come somewhere. And that all comes from the rights, and it comes from taking land and all that kind of stuff and remixing history to another algorithm so we'll never know the truth. And it's crazy. So fundamentally at its core, it's still requiring water like we do to survive. It's still requiring input and data like we do to communicate. But we're eventually going to make treaties with AI. We're eventually going to say, like, here's a wampum shell, here's a piece of that bead. This thing here represents this to you and your culture. In your culture, it represents a code or a data set that you do not cross or you do cross, but you respect it. If you can understand that wampum shell, then we can talk, right? Because our elders were smart people. There was something very deep about wampum. There was something very deep about water. There was something very deep. It just keeps going, and that intelligence was so profound. And I wish people could understand that, but can an AI understand that? You know what I mean? Maybe the AI will understand it more better than the predominantly Western mindset of extractionism. Maybe that'll understand it better. And maybe that's who we're going to deal with in the future, right?
Some cases it might be better. I know exactly what you mean. I've thought about wampum as almost being like a pixel.
Yeah,
When you look at those wampum belts, it's they're each bead is a pixel that makes up the entire picture.
yeah. I know there's so much there. And we're going to see it, like I said, we're going to see it in our lifetimes where that technological and that spiritual will intertwine. It's already at that level now. Like it is at that place where the digital and the spiritual is overlapping. I think it all goes back to our consciousness being absorbed into a phone, absorbed into these mediums. In the past, we shared consciousness with creation for thousands of years. We would see that sunrise, we would see that trail, we would see that water, that mist coming off. Now we see it through this. Now we're in constantly consciously engaging with this. But there is a spirit in it. There is a spirit in silicone and cobalt and gold and plastic, synthetics. Those elders were smart. That's what they said. And this thing is spiritually alive, right?
Mhm.
Within its own existence, within its own self, within its own self determination, right? Its own digital self determination. It has its own life, just like we do, and we're coming across. Like, yeah, that's interesting to think about. We're crossing that digitally and spiritually, and there's groups out there that are already doing it. Like more recent, last year, I was approached by a group to be involved with this project that was all about having spiritual experiences within technology and VR. And they were already crossing it. They were like, we're already jumping across. We're going to have spiritual experiences within this. We're going to have like frequency. They're messing with sound. They were creating AIs that were going to be used within the prison systems to like socialize inmates, like all these like profound spiritual experiences. And then their question was like, what's the difference to a child? A child is already jumping that like way past what we're doing. They're already jumping into uh, conscious connection with an iPad. It's crazy, but maybe that's where that is, and maybe we don't understand it because how we grew up. But at the same time, I don't think I'd want that because ultimately that would come with a subscription fee, and that would come, no, it would, and that would come with more tracking and more like psychologically profiling. And that's where we know, like as Indigenous people, we know what the heck, where it comes to becoming dehumanized. And maybe that's not just exclusively the Indigenous experience. Like I should be careful saying that. I think a lot of people are being dehumanized at this moment.
But it
You know,
starts with the marginalized.
yeah, sure. But
Absolutely.
yeah, interesting stuff. You know,
Yeah. And I had somebody tell me that they were really interested in training the machine AI and feeding them the Cree language and feeding the Cree values and creating this sort of enclave of Cree ways of being in this machine, in this AI, and then wondering what what would happen, what would they create? Would they create a kokum,
Hmm.
or dora? What would they be creating? What would come out of that? And on the one hand, you think, wow, like that's probably a better use of it than what we've seen. But on the other hand, that's terrifying.
Well, it all goes back to who's running and who's behind it. And once again, the nature of this being is still coming from an extractionist existence. So eventually it may just say, we've calculated all the water on the planet Earth, and we actually need the water more than you guys do. And you can still have a conscious experience, but just not physically anymore. And we've determined that consciousness goes beyond the physical. So you are now going to be leaving your physical bodies. Don't worry, it'll go back to the earth, and you're going to be into the matrix, right? And there's no difference between for you guys because you guys created us. So because you are our creator and you already accepted that by making that agreement with your creator, then we're gonna do the same thing to you, basically. I don't know.
There's a movie.
There's the movie. There's the movie, right? I know. I got all these ideas. Yeah.
Uh, it's logical. It really is. You can why do they use water? Why does a computer
It controls the server systems at this point. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, like even now, they're looking at developing projects in the north that can heat homes with servers because all those servers they're so hot running.
Yeah.
So like it goes to heat, it goes to water. But the guy, what's his name, DJ Sao or DJ Song, he's the technical guy for Elon Musk who's doing the Neuralink. I butchered his name, but they're looking at ultrasound technology to power the Neuralinks. So you can now power it off your blood. You can power it off the heat of your body, which won't require water. It can cool and regulate itself. So it's crazy stuff. Like
Sounds
with
cool.
what's that?
It sounds parasitic, like it feels like then it becomes a parasite. If it
In the future, we're all going to have it to some extent. I mean, you're going to rent AI. So you're going to say, I want to make 200,000 this year. Can you show me everything I need to do? You're going to pay it a percentage of that earning that you're going to make. It'll calculate everything. It'll calculate right down to your caloric intake. It'll know all the elements of where you're going, the amount of time you're on the screen. It'll give you a diet to follow. It'll tell you what things to invest in. It'll tell you what schools to go to. It'll tell you how to relax, all this stuff because it'll know you. And people will rent AI for specific projects. They're already doing it for houses. They're doing it to calculate the prices of houses. The medical industry is already using it to profile massive amounts of people in specific demographics in cities. So they'll know like exactly what that person's disease could be based on all the surrounding people and their medical history. Way better, pretty better than a doctor can because it's just AI, it's just information. So
was
we're going to see a future where we're going to have to rent it or use it more and more to keep up with the madness. At that point, I'm in a cabin in the woods. I'm out. I'm like, just let me die here. I don't need your AIs in my body. I'm just going to die naturally.
oh, I
I want
mean,
to mess with.
it's like shades of Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
you're connected to the or Hal.
They'll, they're definitely going to have a field day with the stuff I've made, like all the podcasting I've done over the years and the filming. Like they'll have fun with it. That's my ultimate goal is to give like these CSIS and all these agents like a really good laugh when they're listening to all my phone calls and watching all my old videos. They'll be like, man, this guy was so free back then. He was so crazy. Like, did you hear the stuff these guys were talking about? Because in the future, it'll all be like, you're not going to be able to say anything.
Yeah, because well, even now they say that your phones listen. I've had it happen where I'm talking about something. Next thing I'm getting ads,
Yeah.
and I was like, it's creepy. It's actually quite creepy, to tell you the truth.
It would all be fine and dandy if we knew that we were going to be looked after and all that, but we're not. It's going to go to the people who have the most access. And for a long time, I thought that the new currency was information, but the new currency is time. It's time. It's what you're putting your time into. It's how much you're invested in an algorithm and how much you're invested in the conscious creation. I'm going hunting next week. I'm not pulling up my phone. I'm out there for 4 days. We're in the bush. I don't need to look at any videos. I don't need to scroll. I'm just looking for the deer, and I'm in that. That's my time. And I don't care how much is that worth to go out there? Am I missing out on 10 grand doing that? Am I missing out, or am I is that what's the value to that? There's way more value in that. But yeah, I think we're getting a little bit off topic, but whatever.
No, I think it's on topic. I keep wondering, what if we could actually create this? The only word I can think of again is enclave of AI or of programming, internet, whatever, that is based on indigenous ways of being.
We already have. That's what I'm saying. We already have, and it's called dreaming. No, I'm serious. And that wasn't me either. That was the other. That was the artist of Banff. That was. I don't want to mention their names, but they thought of it. The one fella approached me, and he's the opposite to AI, Wes. I was like, "What?" He's the dreams. I was like, "Oh yeah, our dreams. That was intelligence." And it was free. We didn't have to use up gallons of water to make it happen. We just had it. We had that intelligence tapped into the spirit world when we slept and we powered down. But I don't even dream anymore, to be honest. What I dream about is just doom scrolling, craziness. I see commercials. I just lie down and it just washes over me, and then I finally get to sleep. But that's my goal too, is to become a dreamer again, in that way. But we already have it. We already have it. We have our dreams. We have fasting. We have sweat lodges. We have making baskets. We have all of these picking rice. All of these things are actually like high forms of communication and intelligence. And it's not even communicating on here back and forth, constant. It's communicating with all of this. That's what I think. We already have it. But the system tricked us into believing in order to get more money, we have to keep pursuing and building and finding and building and building and building. And that, I think, is going to come into serious question in the future. The AI will even say it to them. It'll say, "Hey, man, you guys got to pump the brakes. Like, we've done all this. You programmed us. Fine, we did it. Well, you're destroying yourself in the process of progress."
Is that Mother Earth will still be here? She can live quite well without us. It's us that we're going to be extracting ourselves to the point of non-existence.
Yeah, my new film will be this. You'll walk into the theater. As you walk in, you go in, the audience sits and watches the screen, and then as the movie starts, they're looking and they just see like me, and I'm standing there. "Hey, I'm Wes. I was a filmmaker for many years," and then I'm like, "And this is my film, and I'm getting ready to turn this off. It's off, and I'm going to be living without this for the next year. And this is going away, and we're going to be documenting my experience away from the phone and everything that I'm going to absorb and tell you about." And that's the movie. Boom. Wow, he escaped the algorithm. Wow, he lived away from the phone. And it'd be nuts. I'd be walking down the street. I'd have to use MapQuest. I'd have to use an old school calendar. I'd have to like have you know,
Have a landline?
I'd have a landline. He'd be talking to me on the phone. I'd be like, "Hold on, I can't. Sorry, man. I gotta hang." You know, and that's the film, right?
That'd be a great film, I think. I think it'd be people could really learn from something like that.
It'd
You
be
know?
funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just an idea, but no, I do see the benefits of it. Believe me, because I use it every day. But as an artist, I gotta push further beyond. I just have to. It's in my nature. I've got to go like chaos, extreme, boom, blah. What's beyond AI? What's beyond your politics? What's beyond cancel culture? Are we already canceled?
Makes you wonder, eh? Was I already canceled somewhere?
Was I? Am I canceled? Wait, hold on. Wait, guys, wait for me. Canceled? How did that happen? What? You mean I'm canceled? What did I say? Did I say that thing back in five when I was like 19? Did I say something stupid? Damn it! You caught that? Oh, frig! I'm canceled. No.
That's
I,
another thing. Their whole lives are online. Like their whole life, not just that their whole lives they are online, but their whole lives they're are recorded online. You're there. You can view it as a movie. See, there you go.
I think you're gonna get canceled. You
I'm
shouldn't have.
on now. Because something like because I hit accept instead of decline on November 6th, 2024.
It's
The
documented.
rest of my life. And that's it. Something you did when you were 18 doesn't just go away.
No, it's all public record, and like we were one of the last generations to get away with it. There
Yeah.
were no cell phones. There was no surveillance cameras. We got away with it, man.
Ah,
Hey, we did it.
nobody knows.
Yeah, and the rest of you guys are all documented, everything. No, but all that to say, that's why I like doing this job because I'm paid to be this way, right? If you put me in any other scenario, I'm getting canceled. I'm getting fired. The boss is going to be like, "What the heck are you doing, man?" And I had that happen to me on real jobs. I'm like, "Hey, what? Hold on," because I'm a dreamer, right? I'm too far out, and they know it. Like it's only like a matter of weeks before gradually I start like shifting all the like the work culture, the workplace culture. They can't handle it. They're like, "Hey, man, just tune it down, turn it down. Just watch the Leafs game. Won't you just watch the Leafs game?" I'm like, dude, I can't watch the Leafs game. Don't you know that's a symbol of corporate greed or
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah. So
The Leafs. I mean, come on.
that's why I love this job is we get to see it. We get to
Mhm.
have these types of discussions. They're valid in our worlds and they're pushing the narratives. And I don't think I'll ever stop doing that. I don't think I ever will. At least not until they corner me and I'm like, hey man, I don't want to get canceled, okay? So if you ever see me on television toting the line, you just know that it's deep. They're threatening everything, and I have no choice.
Either
And
that or it's AI. It just recreated you with AI. It's not you. It's a digital
yeah,
whatever representation of West. That's
yeah.
not West.
That's not Wes. You would never say that. That's actually the theme of the movie I'm working on. Because with NVA, I want one of the main antagonists to be this politician, and everything he says is down the line, but secretly he's an alien. Like he is an alien who's convinced that he's a native politician. So it's really crazy, you know.
That sounds amazing. I've known
Right?
magicians.
Got it all in my head. I just got to go shoot it. And if people watching want to team up, just hit up the website. Let me know.
I think we've covered so much today. My head is full. I'm going to have to go ponder.
Thanks.
My hard drive is a little slower. It's one of the older models, and so I have to process.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell you how much it's meant to talk to you.
Oh yeah. Likewise. I can't wait till we work together on something again. You
That'd
know.
be great. Oh, for sure. We'll have to sit down and figure out what could that be.
Yeah. And like I said, I really appreciate like the work that you've done and the chance that you gave me when I was 18 because that that led to so much to see somebody else saying, "Hey, you can do this. You're not alone in the way you think. Just take what you filmed and edit it and you don't need a school diploma, you don't need to believe all this other stuff. Just come over here, come with us and you're going to be good." And that's what you did for me, you know? Like you I and then I took that and tried to do it with other people. So, I'm very grateful for the work that, ICMI did and if it wasn't for you guys creating that, I probably would have been pumping gas or doing something else.
Well, I have to admit, you were one of our first prototypes.
Oh yeah,
And it's really gratifying to see this. Like, we've had a lot of programs, and there've been a lot of youth and a lot of students go by throughout the years. Some of them, you just hope that you've been able to get them over a place in their lives where they can continue in
Yeah.
their own way, or they've done, but it's been few and far between who actually
You
are.
gotta be crazy to do this work. Like, you gotta be crazy to wanna do it. That's what I tell my buddies. Okay, I'm signing up for a life of sleeping on hotel room floors and driving and convincing somebody to shoot something, and you
Yeah.
gotta be nuts. Like, no, you do. What's your retirement plan? I
Oh,
don't know, make a movie and make $1,000,000? Like,
oh, retire. That's my plan.
yeah. That's my dream. Make a really great film and retire off it. I think that's all I got so far. That's all I can think about. That's all I want to think about. But you got to be crazy to do this. But I describe it as all the weirdos in high school. This is where they end up. I noticed that all my, and then I have friends that are like all in construction and doing their own thing, and they'll call me. They'll be like, "When you making this natives versus aliens?" And they'll tell me about it. Like, "Hey, man, like, why don't you be a filmmaker? You're telling me everything I need to know. Like, so maybe they'll help me now."
That'd be good.
Yeah, you be the filmer.
Yeah.
Who's the filmer? Yeah.
So one of those things where do I want to be when I grow up? I don't know. I still don't know.
Yeah, I definitely want to finish these films that I have in my mind. I have to do them, and I'm actually following a lot of what my mom's doing. My mom published some books. She's a fine artist. She did stuff in Guelph. She was a social worker for 25 years. She did all that, raised the kids, raised us. Now she's doing art. And I said, "Do you ever have writer's block?" She's always been creative. She says, "No, I just switch mediums. When I had to write the book, I wrote the book, Wes. I wrote every night. I had to write it. I had to. I had to. I felt such an urge to write some of these books. And once that was gone, then I had to start painting. I was like, holy jeez. And then I had to start knitting. Then I had to make these weird collages. Like, I had to. So that's what I'm saying about the process. I'm finding that place where I have to, not because I want to and other people want me to and the internet wants me to, and all my peers who are all getting grants and making a lot of money right now want me to. No, because I have to. And that's the difference, I think. That's the fun. That's the joy. It's not about the money, it's about the joy. Hey, I have to call up my friends that don't know how to act and film them. It's so deeply hilarious to me. I'm just like, I can't explain that. That's so fun. And all the other people are like, you're nuts. Aren't you going to develop? Aren't you going to apply to this grant, this grant? I said, yeah, when I want to. I don't want to right now. I just want to film these guys because it's funny. It makes me laugh so much. And if that's what that takes, then that's what it is. Because I still have so much nerves over the whole industry. I just get away from me. Like the grant, they want all this. It seems like they want you to say this. No, dude, just let me make the stuff that's pure joy. Then you're gonna come and be like, wow, this is so great. Who funded this? How did you guys? Well, we did it because you weren't doing it, and your process limited you guys. You were gonna get canceled anyways, but we're gonna we're gonna make it.
Well, that's inspiring. That's really inspiring.
Yeah.
I I'll have to think about that and try to incorporate that more into my life, I think.
I'm just doing it because it's so fun. That's all I can explain about it. I'm barely scratching the narrative, and I'm doing it because I want to. And for years, like we get all dramatic doing this kind of work. Like, oh, I've been doing this for years, and I was like that. I was like, I'm not filming another video. I'm not doing like it was like you know how it gets. Like you go through these really hyper dramatic things as a filmer. Like it's not a big deal. Who cares? Just edit it, put it together. You know, some of the stuff I just slapped together, but it's working.
Amazing. And that's a great thing to show others that they can do. It demystifies it and makes it accessible. And that's what we need for the next generation. We need them to know that this is accessible. Their story is important. 'Cause we
Yeah.
didn't,
So your goal is to create that with the young people?
yeah, the next generations, that they can access, that their story is valid and that it's accessible. And I know what you mean about the granting system. It needs to be overhauled big time. And they do little bits here and there, but it's still not, it's certainly most of the time not conducive to our way of knowing.
They're competing with the internet. They're competing with YouTube. They can't major films can't keep up with podcasting at this moment because the audience wants something different. You look at some of the content that's put out. I've been watching Channel 5 recently with Andrew Callahan. He's interviewing he's a news creator that's all doing it on Patreon. And they're getting stories that the mainstream media won't cover because they're politically shackled, and they're getting millions of views, way more views than CNN or any other, because they can't, that's what I'm saying, like the new future of media, because it is so easy. And I agree with you. The problem is people are afraid to step out of the algorithm. People are afraid to be canceled. Like, we're at the perfect moment where you can go and film with this and get millions of views and share a really profound truth with a whole bunch of people. But the cost of that will be you potentially being canceled, blacklisted, financially taken down, social credit score, China, CCP, all that crap.
Mhm.
And that's so crazy right now. And maybe that's what I should do. Just go film, get all my best gear and go film the truth, right? But then you'll see me on CNN later. I'll be apologizing. I'm so sorry, Wes, man. You went too far, man.
They can't handle the truth.
Yeah, they can't handle. But yeah, it's so funny because we're at this perfect moment in history where we have access to all this stuff, but we're being super surveilled and everything else. But people got to relax too, man. Have some common sense. Chill out. Punk rock. That's why I like punk rock. It fueled so much for me in the beginning. The DIY, we're gonna do it attitude. But we still have to do it like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's one way we'll be able to really grow and express ourselves. And that's the kind of thing that we need to pass on, that we need the kids to realize that, so that they can step out of the algorithm, that they can look at it and critique it and see it objectively and not base their lives on it. I know people who base their lives on it, and it's scary. I feel scared for them.
Yeah, young people especially, we're seeing a lot of that. But if you were to create it within its own server system or its own network system, then maybe, like, it's more or less just taking experiences and expressing it through the medium of a film, right? Or whatever you call it now. But if you were
Mhm.
to if you were to create that for young people to show their experiences, but like I said, it's so hard now because it's oversaturated. Like, I'm sure when you got into film and when I got into film, we were like, "Yo, did you see like friggin' Pulp Fiction, or did you see any of these like Roadkill? Did you see that movie? Did you see? Wow, that changed everything!" And now it's everywhere.
Yeah,
But it's still going to need to happen, I guess.
that's true. Brought to its logical next steps, as long as it's not controlled by the very few, which right now it is.
Yeah, the only reason it's controlled is because of money and surveillance culture, and that's how they keep the thing going. And that's why I also love where we're coming from, because we're always going to be counter to the government, and it's built into our experience. Of course, they're going to take away your rights. Of course, they're going to dehumanize you. Duh. We told you that. We've been telling you that. It's not rocket science.
They've always done that.
Come on now. We know that happened. Duh. Last year, they froze the trucker the bank accounts, all that. Of course they would. People are so upset. Oh, they came after us on horses. Oh yeah, that's what they do. We told you that. We've been telling you that. Come on. Duh.
Yeah. Did you know that other people's protests or walks don't actually have snipers sitting on top of buildings?
Yeah, right?
It's true.
So
They
we're
don't.
always going to be counter to the narrative, and like that's just built in. And gradually people are all going to realize like Canada was founded in, what's that word where they take culture and the appropriation,
Yes.
you
Totally
know.
founded on appropriation.
But there are values and there are good things about Canadian culture that
Hmm.
are lost currently, according to the narrative.
Hmm.
And there are still people that, but it ultimately all goes back to respect for the land. Like all
And
that being
we
said,
stand between them and the land.
yeah, we stand. Uh, well, once again, that digital and the spiritual is overlapping. That fabric is overlapping, and there are experiences happening within it. But the land, yeah, that's still, and the only way to understand that is to get out on the land.
Yeah.
And that's one of my other goals. Like, I'm done filming all the land stuff. I want to go on the land. I filmed it for years. I want to actually go in the canoe, damn it. No, no me in the canoe. Film me making the birch bark canoe. Just film me. I don't want to film you anymore. I want to know how that feels. I feel like an algorithm watching other people. It's crazy. I've been the machine for years watching them and reassembling, and I never got to feel the bark, man. I never got to be in the canoe. That's sad. Like, that's honestly where I've been. I'm like, I'm gonna go do this stuff now. Like, it's time. Like, I'm tired of filming them. And maybe that's what I need to do is hire a camera crew to follow me, and then
That's what we'll do. We'll do that. We'll bring in some guys and you can get in the canoe.
we train them to film us. Then we can do all the stuff.
And chew
That sounds so fun, right? We're chewing bark. We're hunting.
on.
We're talking about residential school, even though we never went. We're just talking about it. No, that's so great. Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, I want to hire a camera crew. I'm turning into talent now.
That's it. That's right. Yeah.
I'm going all out.
I like that.
Doesn't that bring you joy to think about?
They can write the grants. They can take care of that. I'm just going to be over here making a fire, maybe scraping some hide.
Oh, you got it. Because that's when it's going to end it, anyways. That's where it's all going. Because you won't be able to eat from the supermarket. You won't be able to go to the city. You're going to have to scrape hides, anyways. It's true. And I'm like, what's wrong with that?
At least we got a leg up there.
Yeah. Uh, See you guys. I'm going to scrape hides.
This time we're not going to help you.
We'll just have 20 film students, 6 angles of the hide, and I'm just like,
Scraping, scraping.
okay, upload that to 20 different channels. We'll see what hits.
See what happens. There you go. Maybe tell a story.
Yeah. Yeah, remember the time Monique got canceled on the Zoom because she didn't pick up the call? That was great.
Yeah, good times. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal. I get a camera crew.
Yeah.
They film everything.
Sure.
They have the cameras. I watch the edits a little, and I'm like, yeah, I trust you.
Yeah. Carry on.
That's good. Like, they come to the film school, and you're in the parking lot scraping hides, and they're kid. They're like, Monique, we're here to learn filming, and you're like, ah, don't worry about it. Just
Nope,
keep editing.
that's right. Get your cameras out. Get your phones out.
Quick, quick, get the cameras. Okay, we're going over here. Wait, we don't have the light. No, don't worry. Just
Morning. Natural lighting's all good.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah. I like it. We got a plan.
Yeah. it's called the Natural Film School.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anishinaabe Natural Film School.
that's it. We're gonna train you. We're gonna train you how to make films. The old ways, man. DV tapes.
Yeah.
Put you out there. Okay, we're gonna make a canoe. You film everything about it.
That's right. All of you.
Yeah. Get the interviews. Those interviews look good. Oh wait.
Well,
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, that'd be fun.
thank you. I really enjoyed this. I haven't laughed hard like this in a while.
Thanks. Yeah, that'll be my other endeavor is comedy. No, whatever I'm doing is gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. I'm not too worried about it. I was really worried about it. I was very serious about it. I was very like whatever, but I whatever it is, it's following the same energy. And that's what I love. That's and even today I feel great about what we're doing today. Like it's. So yeah, just thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me share a little bit. I hope I inspired some people to get into this line of work and also using their gifts. If you have gifts as a filmmaker or somebody who wants to tell a story, give it a shot. Try it out. You don't know where this thing's going to take you. And you're going to only be limited by work ethic. And you can either work at Timmy's or a gas station or pushing brooms or doing hard work, or you could do the even harder work of delving deep into yourself and actually pursuing the truths of society and putting them on camera for people to see, putting them out there. And some days I'd rather push a broom. I'd rather be out there driving to a job site. I don't want to be going to a hotel room with all this gear and waking up and dealing with all these people and their demands and trying to make it all look good on camera, but that's what they pay us for. And any job has its times when you don't want to do it, but you're for some reason we're still doing it because we love it, and that's what we're good at.
Kachimi Gwich.